Hello everyone. This is my 3.29 Frostblade Warden build guide. In All-Flame League we no longer have the Shrine Belt, but when God closes a door, he opens a window. We are able to achieve even higher DPS than in Mirage League. I currently have 350 million DPS with this 3 rings 12 link setup. Also, this is the league with the fewest players playing Warden. There is a good chance GGG will buff Warden even more. Except for the very endgame setup, the build is almost the same as last league. I have kept the same content in this video for newcomers. If you have watched my previous guide, you can skip to the new endgame section to see what has been updated. This build offers good damage, good clear speed, kill all Ubers and run the most of map modifiers. It explodes the entire screen one shot and can freeze lock tough rares or map bosses. However, the core defensive layers are freeze and block. You may die randomly before reaching high investment. I don't recommend this build for new players looking for a smooth league start, or those who want to learn the game through this build. It is not a foolproof build that will carry you from early game to end game. You'll die a lot before you can afford expensive gears. I don't want to ruin new players' league experience, so I'm not going to explain every single mechanic in great detail. I expect you to already have a basic knowledge of the game's core mechanics. One more thing, if you hate clicking 2 tinctures every 10 seconds, this build is not for you. Start with the core mechanics of the build. Ailments are one of the most important mechanics in this build. A large portion of both our damage and survivability comes from ailments. Since we deal cold damage, mobs will be constantly chilled and frozen. Because of the chill and freeze, we gain a massive amount of fire damage from heat shiver. As we now deal fire damage as well, we apply ignite, but it is useless. Thanks to Oath of Summer from the Warden Ascendancy, we apply 2 scorches instead of ignite. At maximum effect, 2 scorches can lower enemy elemental resistances by 60%. With Yoke of Suffering, all of our elemental damage can also shock enemies. Mobs take up to 50% increased damage from maximum shock. With Oath of Winter, once a mob is frozen, it will remain frozen for at least 2 seconds. Cold Mastery applies a permanent increased damage taken effect to frozen enemies. We don't need this for trash mobs, but it helps ramp up damage when fighting endgame bosses or tough rares. However, ailments do almost nothing if our base damage is too low. Tinctures provide a massive amount of increased damage, attack speed, elemental penetration, and critical strike chance. Warden enabled double tinctures with Enduring Suffusion and Experienced Herbalist. By taking tincture effect nodes on the passive tree and the new Runegraft of the Imbued, we achieve more than double effect from our tinctures. Because we apply 4 different ailments to enemies, we can gain a huge damage boost from the taming. Claw provides life gain on hit, and mana on hit if we use Gemini Claw. To have better sustain, we also get Leech from Cluster Jewels. Mana Leech allows us to use an Imperial Claw without needing life tap support. Combined with Petrified Blood, we have Overleech and can benefit from leech effects. On the defensive side, this build is quite a glass cannon. It relies heavily on freeze and block to survive. Before Svalin, you will die often if you cannot freeze mobs or bosses quickly enough. The build only starts to feel stable after getting Svalin. It may sound bad, but lucky block chances also allow us to survive some extremely dangerous map mods that most other builds cannot handle, such as -52% maximum resistances. Very few builds can survive this kind of harsh map mod. Besides direct damage, Dot is a major threat. When in combat, it was fine. However, when Dot kills you, there is often nothing left to leech from, like ground effects or on-death effects. To deal with this, we reduce Dot damage taken by 55% through Boon of the Mountain in the Alroth bloodline and the major god Arakali. Our ward recovers in just 1 second, and because of block, ward is almost always active. With this setup, I can tank Uber Shaper's beam for a while. Without Boon of the Mountain, I die instantly. There are not many map mods can break our build. 4 map mods worth mentioning. The first one is monsters have chance to avoid elemental ailments. If you're just doing easy maps, it's fine. However, if you run hard maps with this mod, you'll become ZDPS and die easily because you won't be able to freeze anything. The next one is Elemental Reflect. You can run it safely with Soul of Yugal plus the Elemental Mastery. Avoid it if you don't want to waste points on the Mastery. The third one is players have reduced chance to block. It's still doable, but you'll die easily. The last one is monsters cannot be leeched from. You can link Life Tap to Frost Blade, or switch to Gemini Claw instead of Imperial Claw to completely ignore this mod. Now here is the Zero to Hero guide, assuming a fresh league start. If you feel anything is missing or unclear, feel free to let me know. Starting from Act 1, buy a 2-handed weapon and use Spectral Throw. Link it with Momentum support, and replace Momentum with Volley support later. Link added Cold Damage support if you have 3 Link gear. At level 12, drop the 2-handed weapon. Replace Spectral Throw with Poisonous Concoction. Get a shield and socket shield charge, linking it with faster attack support. At this stage, aim for precise technique and point blank on the passive tree. Pick up a heavy belt and lapis amulet in case you need more strength or intelligence. Link faster attack support if you have 4 link gear. Next, take Dance of Blades and use blood and sand to gain onslaught. If you don't like clicking a button every 4 seconds for onslaught, you can skip it. At level 28, replace Poisonous Concoction with Explosive Concoction. Do the first lab and pick Oath of Summer. This setup will carry you through to white maps. There are some notable passives that will help you progress through the campaign. It's worth mentioning that these 2 nodes are important because they are the only source of Scorch when you cannot crit due to precise technique. At around level 45, your leveling tree should look like this. After this point, start picking nodes in preparation for switching to Frost Blade. Before switching to Frost Blade in white maps, your tree will look quite messy like this. Try to buy a random Twin Claw, Rosethorn Tincture, and Prismatic Tincture for 1 chaos each. Alternatively, you can pick one up from the ground and use an Anger, Hatred, or Wrath Essence on the claw. You want one tincture to have any tier of attack speed, and the other to have any tier of penetration. You can roll them with alteration orbs or simply buy the tinctures with the desired mods. Lastly, a Heat Shiver may cost 20 to 30 chaos on league start. Thanks to GGG's buff to ground loot, I had enough raw chaos from the acts. I switched to Frost Blade right after finishing the campaign. The tree should look like this after you respec. Also, it was my tree at the end of day 1. You can progress through the Atlas without any major problems, though you will die quite often. When you feel your DPS is falling off, try to buy or craft a better claw and get a 5-link or 6-link body armor. A 6-link setup with a 400 DPS elemental Gemini claw is more than enough to carry you to tier 16. Also, try to get better rolls on your tinctures. They increase your DPS significantly. If you feel like you're dying too much, yes, it's normal at this stage. The only thing you can do is try to buy a shield with high attack block chance and spell block chance to die less often. If you have spare chaos, buy cheap cluster jewels with Fuel the Fight or Feed the Fury, and cheap rare jewels with plus 3% to both block chances. Block chance is basically your only defense at this point. It will get much better once you've completed the Uber lab. Oath of Winter helps you freeze lock bosses. After reaching tier 16, your next goal is to obtain all 4 Void Stones. Maven is the hardest one because it's the most annoying to deal with when your DPS isn't high yet. Save some currency to buy a Yoke of Suffering. Even a bad roll on the yoke increases your DPS a lot thanks to the better shock effect and the extra damage taken debuff on mobs. Alternatively, you can run fortress maps with the Sinistral and Dextral tech. Yoke of Suffering is not that rare, you can easily farm one within 10 maps. And you'll always be earning currency by selling Uber fragments. After Yoke of Suffering, the core of the build is basically complete. You can now start running some farming strategies to progress into the mid-budget stage. Here is a list of gear upgrades to focus on. Roll a better Gemini Claw using Deafening Essences of Hatred. It is usually cheaper than buying a decent one from trade. Roll your tinctures to their top-tier mods. Buy ward-base gloves with life, resistances, accuracy, and an open prefix. Craft damage while leeching on them. Roll Pierce and Strike targets implicits. These will save you 8 passive points. With the spare points, buy a second cluster jewel with Fuel the Fight, Feed the Fury, and Heavy Hitter. Buy ward-base boots with life, resistances, and craft movement speed. Roll action speed and avoid ailments implicits. Use Greater Eldritch Ichor to roll avoid ailments and bless it to 20%. Apply 6 Tattoo of Arrow-Hungry Scout to gain chill and freeze immunity, then switch your major god to Arakali. Buy a pair of forbidden jewels for Oath of Summer. Run Sun Knight logbooks to find the boss and spec into Boon of the Mountain in the Alroth bloodline. Buy a better 6-link body armor with high life and resistances, then craft block chance on it. Replace one ring with the Taming. Keep one rare ring to help solve your strength and intelligence requirements at this stage. Buy a Stygian Vice with item level 85 and roll it with Deafening Essences of Envy. Aim for high strength and some life. Then socket an Abyssal Jewel with damage. Life is optional because it is much more expensive with life. Lastly, buy Lethal Pride and Thread of Hope. These specific numbers are the good ones to pick. After all these improvements, I assume you will be at least level 95, and your tree should look like this. We are heading to complete this build. I recommend getting these items in the following order, but it is not super strict. First is Svalin and 4 perfect replica Reckless Defense jewels. You need them to have just enough maximum chance for both attack and spell block. Upgrade Multistrike to Greater Multistrike. Next items are the Claws and Gloves. The Claw is a huge DPS upgrade. If you don't know how to craft them, please check out my crafting guide video. Now the basic of the end game build is completed. To get the crazy damage, use the following setup which is new from 3.29. It is how I have my 12-link setup to achieve 350 million DPS. Pearl of Tsotha is a new unique ring. Each ring can add 2 supports to helmet and we will use 3 Pearl of Tsotha. No worry, it is even cheaper or just equals to buying an Acceleration Shrine belt in Mirage League. You can buy each ring one by one to have better upgrade curve. Before buying Pearl of Tsotha, buy a Forbidden Shako with at least level 33 added cold damage paired with a useful low-level support. Some of the best choices are Life Tap, Culling Strike, Fortify or Cold to Fire since they are not that affected by gem level. Also there is the list of which combo you can pick as well. However, the supply is very low so don't be too picky. Next is Pearl of Tsotha. Keep it in mind, Life Tap and Cold to Fire are necessary. As you can see 12-link Frost Blade cost 100 mana per attack. We cannot sustain the mana cost without Life Tap. Since we don't have Heat Shiver anymore, we need Cold to Fire to apply Scorch. Also Cold to Fire enables Trinity support which is a free damage upgrade. So when buying Pearl of Tsotha, you need to mix and match your gem depends on what you have had. I have both trade URL for you to buy Shako and Pearl of Tsotha below. When you have Life Tap linked already, you can replace both of your cluster jewels. You don't need Mana Leech from Fuel the Fight anymore. Replace a cluster jewel with Feed the Fury, Prodigious Defense and Martial Prowess. It also frees up a reckless defense because of the extra block chance from prodigious defense. Buy a Watcher's Eye instead. No one play attack build this league. They are so cheap. To use Hatred Socket a level 3 Enlighten and pick this small 8% mana reservation node. It is fine to have around 40 mana only because we don't spend mana anymore. This 6-link setup on body armor with enhanced support can improve our movement speed to compensate the loss of Flask. See, the build's still fast enough to feel good without Flask. We have a free gem socket. If you want more damage, you can craft a new pair of boots. This is the boot I am using. The crafting process is similar to how to craft my gloves. The only difference is you want to fracture Abyssal Socket mod. Also a good 5 mods Abyssal Jewel is easy to find thanks to Ducat Craft. Get a Darkness Enthroned with 100% increased effect and get 2 Abyssal Jewels to get even higher DPS. So it is my build of All Flame League. Sorry my viewers. I don't have many farming strats videos for you this league. I was suffering to lag during the whole league. It was not very enjoyable. I even stopped at level 98. Speedran farming currency to finish my build and completing challenges. See you next league. Thanks for watching.